Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is Sunday, September 18th, 2022. Welcome, small wildflowers. Good to see you this morning. I hope you're well. Hi, Creative Flow Seeker. Good to see you here. Okay. Well, I got to tell you, I feel like this year, as we're starting to come to where we are, we're starting Libra season, right? This week, good morning, CC Pups. This week, we'll see the sun move into Libra. And at the same time, we still have Mercury retrograding through Libra and going into Virgo. And as I was thinking about the broadcast this morning, I was kind of thinking about how much repetitive reflection has been required of us humans in the year 2022. And when I say repetitive, I mean, I feel like the Venus is making aspects to Uranus this week. And I'm going to go over this in a second, but I kind of want to give you a general idea of where I'm going. I feel as if the square between Saturn and Uranus, which has been a theme for, it feels like decades. And at the same time, I feel like every time we've come through this point, it's given each one of us an opportunity to look at what truly and authentically makes us happy. What do we really want to experience in the structure of our lives? And I feel as if this idea of Saturn being restrictive and Uranus being rebellious is asking us as individuals to be rebellious to ourselves, in the sense of, are we going to go back to our history over and over again? Are we going to give life to the journey of BS we've already experienced? Are we going to go, oh, my mommy and daddy did this to me, and oh my God, my employer did that to me? Or are we going to go, okay, 6 planets retrograde right now. Maybe there's something going on here that's much bigger than I can see. Maybe this is really truly about not breaking or releasing those experiences, but integrating them in a powerful way. You know, we have Pluto. Pluto, God bless Pluto. Because Pluto is relentless. It's going to keep digging and digging and digging and asking you your deeper truth. So while I want to be, a little victim-y, I got to tell you, the weather in California has made my sinuses insane, which has then affected my whole face. Like, I feel like everything is bigger. I feel like I have an elephant head. And so within that experience, I keep asking myself, like, where is my bottom line? Where do I give myself permission to give up? And where do I empower myself by pushing through? And where am I willing to dig deeper into my co-creation within the dynamic of my life? So here we go. Pluto sitting there in Capricorn, Capricorn being ruled by Saturn, Saturn in a square with Uranus, is asking me, how can I use that structure to build upon versus tear down? It's now time to be the phoenix. It's now time to rise and use that Plutonian energy. Ooh, a bug just flew onto my. Okay, sorry. I gotta stop right now. 1 second. I had to kill the bug. I apologize to the bug. Let's say a prayer for the bug. But I don't like bugs in front of me. Okay, let me go back. Oh, my sinuses are beyond. I've been steaming with thyme and sage, and anyway. But let me go back to this, because while we have all these planets retrograde and Mercury is retrograding, it's now in a direct opposition today from Libra with Jupiter in Aries, and it's squaring the moon in Cancer, all at 4 degrees. And so those dynamics, the Mercury, Jupiter, and the moon part, makes me want to look at that and then apply it to the square between Saturn and Uranus. How can I look at my mind? Am I willing to look at my beliefs and to allow myself not to be wrong, but to be evolved in some way? Maybe at some point, yes, these things that held me back were valid. But now is my focus on them? Is my mind on them, continuing that journey, which is then affecting my emotions and making me feel vulnerable? Or am I willing to say, okay, that was all true, but where do I want to go now? Where do I want to put my focus now? Because I think it's super important for us to start to take these aspects that have been going on, like literally like, oh, this only happens once every couple hundred years. This only happens once every couple thousand years. And start to say, why did I incarnate now? Why did I choose this time to be this age, to walk down this path? And how can I empower myself versus falling victim to the wave of fear that is riddling this planet right now? So I think today, when we think about Mercury retrograde, I really want to offer it. Like, I'm not talking about communications with others. I'm talking about self-talk. What is my self-talk? Where do I go? Where's my default? And in my default, am I conscious? Because sometimes in that default thought, we validate it. Don't you understand my pain? Don't you see how I've been wronged? Don't you see my hard journey? And I'm not discounting any of that. But at the same time, I feel like this is where the rubber meets the road. And this is where the true co-creators go, okay, I got to soldier through. I got to push past this moment so I can give myself an opportunity to feel empowered. So let me tell you why I see this, because the square, Saturn's now 19 degrees Aquarius. That's the Libra degree, squaring Uranus at the Virgo degree, 18 degrees. So I want to be thinking about, how can I purport balance within the process of this square? How can I, rather than like polarizing it and victimizing or being overly victorious in a situation, because I want to go back to the square, to the moon, and say, am I creating a platform that allows me to be a fabulously flawed human being that does a little go one step forward, two steps back? And in the two steps back, does that offer me perception that I didn't have when I was sitting up close? We see this week, I want to say on Monday, the sun is going to make a trine to Pluto. So I think there's going to be some sort of illumination of what Pluto's retrograde has to offer us. And at the same time, we're going to see Venus at the Virgo degree, 18 degrees. How do I process my own value? How do I process the things that are important to me? Am I giving life to the viability that I'm a co-creator who can make her own money, can create her own comfort, can enjoy her life? Or am I somehow focusing more on the challenges ahead than I am on what I have already accomplished? I think that this Mercury retrograde, as it drifts into Virgo, and it has this opposition to Neptune retrograde, used wisely, would be an opportunity to review how much evolution I have actually experienced. And am I expecting some destination of ease and comfort, or have I become accustomed to the roller coaster ride and start to enjoy the climb up the roller coaster and then the woo down the roller coaster? Because as the week progresses and Venus is making this trine to Uranus, it feels as if there's going to be an exact trine on Monday of Venus 18 degrees and Uranus retrograde 18 degrees Taurus. So there's this opportunity to really start to feel about anchoring this in. And the anchoring in is not about like an oak tree that isn't moving. This feels very flexible to me. It's an opportunity to be very flexible. By Friday, we will see that Venus is in an exact opposition to Neptune. And I think that's going to give an opportunity to see, I feel almost where at that moment, we think of Neptune as the higher octave of Venus, because Venus is her best friend is being in Pisces, being at home there with Neptune and hanging out. And in this moment, I feel like that 23 degrees is an Aquarian degree, giving me an opportunity to see where maybe I've been participating in my own inability to move forward, is the way I want to say it. Because I feel like sometimes we get tired, as humans, and the structure of Saturn will say move forward regardless whether you're tired. The structure of Saturn will say, I don't care how you feel. I have no investment in your happiness. I just want the job done. And I think that this is where this opposition could really break that illusion, because your vibration, your emotional body moving forward in a situation is the platform with which you create upon. So if it is overly dutiful, overly, if you're pushing, that proverbial rock uphill, you will create a certain amount of what your intention is, but you'll hit a ceiling. So when we look at this by Friday and we see this, where am I getting in my own way? Where is Neptune making me see things in a way that feels foggy? And I kind of want to go back to, normally we're like, oh, rose-colored glasses, escapism. But maybe in that moment, it's this feeling of experiencing the square between Saturn and Uranus, exasperating what's going on here in the opposition between Venus and Virgo. Venus being my self-worth and Neptune being my spiritual side. Where am I being willing to be egoless in my willingness to move forward? Or where am I edging God out? Because if for some reason that opposition brings a disillusionment of some kind, maybe this is for your good. And maybe this is an opportunity to see, because Venus and Mercury will both be making a trine to Pluto on that same day. Venus, again, is at 23 degrees Virgo. Mercury is then going to be retrograde 29 degrees Libra, I believe. No, Virgo. And then it's going to be making that trine to Pluto. So the trine in that moment doesn't feel like it's necessarily a harmonious feeling. Like, I don't feel like I'm walking around like going, oh, I feel so good. But what I almost feel like, it's like back in the olden days when they used to have that triangle, that would be the dinner bell. They'd call you out. I feel like that the dinner bell is ringing. And this is an opportunity, because we're going to walk into the new moon on the 25th in Libra. And I thought that was interesting because it's at 10/2/22 and it's at 2 degrees. And I can't remember the time that right now, because I'm going to do a separate video on that. But I feel like this is an opportunity to come into cooperation with the ebb and the flow. The cooperation in realizing that balance isn't like this. Balance is ability to go like this. Okay. All right. Let's go into our weekly readings. We're going to start with our tarot card, and I'm going to start with Libra today. Okay, and let's see what our first card is for Libra. Oh, I love it. The 10 of Cups. The 10 of Cups is a card of great happiness and satisfaction and cooperation. It actually, in some respects, is what Libra strives for. Happy family, harmonious, peace, love, and all of that. And what I want to do this week, I think, for my Libras is not only wish them a happy birthday, but also I feel like this is an opportunity for Libra to, I think inadvertently, that Libra only gives life to the more higher vibrations of Libra. That sometimes when Libra is experiencing the challenges, and there's been the square to Pluto for a long time, how can that square actually serve my happiness? So let's go let's see where we're going with this, because I think for each of us, the house of Libra falls in a different place. And for me, it's the 7th house. And so when I look at what I'm being offered right now, I have noticed within myself that I have been struggling with wanting to feel an old vibration. There's been events that the South Node has brought into my experience that makes me want to say, oh my gosh, I feel lack here. And at the same time, I feel Spirit saying, is that lack a habit of thought? Or can you turn that around and look for where, if there's something that's been removed from your life or something that's been put on a back burner, does it have the ability to bring in new happiness that would otherwise not be there because there would be no room for it, at least within your focus? Okay, Let's look. Our first angel for Libra is Ray. The second is Vanessa. The third is Indriel. And the final is Patience. All right, Ray is being joined by the cow. Vanessa's being joined by the bear. Indriel's being joined by the swan. And Patience is being joined by the wind fairy. Okay, so this is where I want to go with my Libras. While it's not Saturn. The South Node is traversing Scorpio. It's hit my it's creeping up on my Mercury, then it's going to go to my Par Fortune, and then it'll hit my Neptune, and then quite a few other my planets moving forward when it goes into Libra. And I have to tell you, my initial response to that was fear. Okay, oh my God, Mercury, my everyday activities, my community, my people, my tribe. And that dynamic has shifted. Absolutely, it has shifted. Some of us have seen it here on Sunday. People that we used to come every week aren't here anymore. And I went into a very Saturnian place with that. I started to beat myself up. I started to say it's my fault. I started to take on a lot of responsibility. And I think this is what God and the angels want Libra to talk about this week with themselves. Because when I look at Ray and I see Ray, I feel like this is an opportunity to connect with spirit, to really say, I have been calling forth more happiness into my life. And now, am I allowing my own abundance to come in? Because what I've noticed and what I've been praying for a lot is I see that my calendar is full. I see that I am moving forward. Yeah, it's been a little, but for the most part, there's a momentum there. And yet at the same time, I have felt lack, scarcity, and sluggishness. And then I go back and I look at my personal transits. I'm like, oh, yeah. There we go. There they are. They're right there. And so what I felt is a surrender. It's not about giving up or victimizing or taking myself, pushing a shopping cart down the street. It's a deeper and deeper connection to spirit, and to recognize that the human calls forth many things that they want that will make them feel happy. But how often do we really allow it in? How often do we allow ourselves the privilege to believe that if something good happens in our life, it has the ability to thrive? Because in the opportunity, the obstacle, my Libra, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, is the Baird. The Baird rules my history, but it also rules the enchantment of storytelling. And there's Vanessa asking if you're going to base your decisions on faith or fear. Are you going to assess your life from faith or fear? Are you going to be willing to be egoless enough to say, maybe God, maybe source energy, maybe the people or whoever the energies are that rule this plane have something bigger in mind? And I've been calling forth this experience, and I don't have all the A, B, C, D steps to it. So here, my job as a human right now is to start to tell a new story. What if I'm winning when I thought I was losing? Because in the angel's advice is Indriel, the light worker, and there's the swan. And I feel like this isn't about being a light worker. This is actually shining a light on your own evolution. And the idea that the human experience is not designed to be a linear experience that goes from bad to good. It is an absolute experience of contrast. And every fear moment, every time we feel victimized, every time we feel less than in our life, it is actually an opportunity to rise up and to feel powerful. Because in this moment, Libra, patience represents an observation of my mind and my processes of my mind. And as I've aged, and y'all know I'm about to be 63 years old in a few weeks. Thank you very much. Oh, God bless. It's such a beautiful opportunity to grow old. But what I've noticed is there are certain things in the way that my mind works that haven't gone away. And I thought from as a child, oh, when I'm this age, I'll feel this way. And when I'm this age, I'll feel that way. And what I realized as I got older is that those situations are always going to be there. And as much life as they have is my focus upon them. And that's why the Baird is asking you to tell a new story. Hello, Scotland. My dad would be so happy you're in the house. My dad was born and raised in Scotland. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios. So here we are for those of you that y'all look like you've been here before, but just in case, for Albatross Pro, I think that is. I'm starting with the sign of the month, the birthday sign. So we're starting with Libra today, and we're going to work our way towards Virgo. I feel like the moon is super, super important. I really want to say that. I know the moon zips around the zodiac faster than anything else, and so do our emotions. We can start a day in a good mood, and then it can, go terribly wrong, and just the opposite. So I feel as if paying attention to your moon sign is super important. Then I want to go rising, because to me that is my perception and the depth of who I really am. It's my knee-jerk reaction to things. And then I go to my sun. My sun is what I hope that the world sees in me. And I want to apologize if I sound a little funky. My mouth, I've got a tooth doing something that's hitting my tongue when I talk. All right. I think it's because my sinuses are all inflamed and it's making my tooth on this side inflamed. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I want to honor this because as the South Node is going through Scorpio, it can feel very erosive, okay? It can feel very, almost feel as if you're walking through quicksand or walking through cement or walking through deep mud. But I want to offer it this way because Scorpio rules power and control. I think that this is an opportunity to, again, sort of implement that idea. Am I edging God out in some way because of my perception of something? Or is there something deeper being offered to me? Your co-ruling planet Mars is going to go retrograde in Gemini. And while that will affect our everyday activities, I really am going to focus in on the mind, because the mind is where the focus is. The focus is where the momentum comes. The momentum is where the experience begins. So giving yourself permission, Scorpio, not to overly judge yourself, but yet use something as a piece of information so that you can empower yourself. Let's see what the tarot is. All right, this is the Fool, and for me, this rules Mars, rules this card. This is where the hero, this is the beginning of the hero's journey, where the soul enters the physical experience sort of excited, not really, doesn't remember any of its past lives. It doesn't remember where it's been. It's very willing to walk on this journey. And a little bit, Mars is kind of funny because it gets so excited that it shoots ahead. And one of the things about the Fool is that as he starts to move forward, the first person he's going to meet is the Magician. And I think it's because he walks off the cliff that he starts to meet. The first person he meets is the energy that says, as above, so below. You have all the tools here that you need. And this is why when I look at Mercury, I focus on the mind and the thought process. And when I look at the moon, I focus on my emotional body because they work in tandem. All right, let's see what the angels want you to be. I want to offer it this way because I think that braveness and the Martian energy may have something to do with be willing to look where you're getting in your own way. And it's not about judgment. It's not about crucifying yourself or calling yourself wrong. It's about recognizing the natural human experience, because contrast is why we are here. Oh, Stephen, thank you so much. That's so sweet. And happy birthday to your partner as well. I hope he enjoys the day. All right, let's look and see, Scorpio. Oceana is our first angel. Isabella is the second. The third is Azure. And the final is Archangel Michael. It's funny, as I started to shuffle, I felt, know thyself. And I feel as if, there's so much beauty within the sign of Scorpio. And I think oftentimes the key words diminish that beauty, because when Scorpio is brave enough and uses the brave Martian energy to dig deep into your own emotional body. Where am I? Because sometimes the shadow side of Scorpio is to get so entrenched in the story that it becomes your walking stick. It becomes the story that leads the way. So Oceana is asking you to take action and to look where your ego is getting in the way, where you're edging God out. This is so natural. The human brain is branded like a cow on a ranch, okay? And once that brand comes, other humans will tell you you can release that brand because the pain of the heat is no longer there, but it's not true. It's about working with that. It's about how can I take this situation and have it serve a bigger picture. So Isabella is being joined by the Lady of the Lake, because this is where self-respect is, where you're willing to go through this storm of realizing that, yes, I've been hurt. And the human wants to be validated. The human wants to have their hurts validated by others, which is not necessarily negative, but the Scorpio gets to choose if that validation is, again, paving the walkway you're going to move forward on, or if that can then put it in its rightful place. Because Azure is telling you your desired outcome will happen in the near future. And that outcome is being released from the chains that bind you within the ego. There is a leadership quality to Scorpio that must be acknowledged for me. There's a need for leadership, and then there is a displaying of that leadership, because the communications card here for me is, again, talking about the self-talk. And am I going back to what's going on with my ego and edging God out? Because, again, I don't want to diminish the story of where we've been. In my studies, my spiritual studies, Spirit has shown me that oftentimes some of our most powerful leaders begin in a very challenging way. They can come under circumstances that inspire compassion, that I was watching, okay, I'll give you an idea. I was watching Master Chef, and I don't know if you guys ever watch it, but in the third season, Christine Haw won the season. When she auditioned, she is a blind woman. She lost her sight 10 years prior because of an autoimmune disease, and she had to rework her whole life. And to watch her walk into that kitchen and to not only succeed, but be willing to fail, that was so powerful to me. And that's what I think is going on with Scorpio. Can you find your power in your willingness to fail? Because Oceana is asking you to dig deep into your own emotions and where your ego is edging God out. It's time for you to rise up and see this storm and yet hold your truth effortlessly. Because when you own your own self-talk, it isn't trying to fix the self-talk. It's just being aware of that self-talk. Then you can start shift your being energy in a way that not only makes you feel even more powerful than you already are, in a way that makes me feel like that fixed energy of Scorpio truly becomes this benign, loving leader that says, I see the deep psychology in you. I see where your deep hurts are. And now let me show you how those hurts have made your life better. Better. Okay. Welcome, Tebow. Good to see you in the room. Hi, Jules. Hi, Penelope. Okay, let's go on. The next is our Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Hi, DJ, and hi to everybody I missed before when I just kind of launched in. I noticed last week's broadcast got super long, and I want to try to keep these a little more manageable. All right, let's look at our Sagittarius. Ooh. Okay, here we go. The Queen of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles is a very loving energy. I'm sorry for the loss of the Queen, yes, but you know what? She lived a long-ass life. I kind of say, doesn't seem that strange to me, especially since her husband just passed away. But anyway, the Queen of Pentacles for me right here, for my Sagittarius, kind of gives me this feeling of both feet on the ground. I don't know why I want to say it that way, but I see this little bunny right here running into the foreground. And I feel like whatever you're wanting to manifest, it's about keeping your focus on it and your feet on the ground as spirit starts to do a baton pass. I really believe that manifestation is sort of this ebb and flow. We sit back and we have these inspired ideas. Oh, I want to do astrology on YouTube. And then the natural human goes, oh my God, who will watch? How will they get there? Will they like me? Blah, 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 blah. And as we kind of let that take a back seat and allow spirit to inspire us in an authentic way, we start to see how we are working in tandem. So as we're inspired by something and we stay in that inspired energy, spirit starts to bring the elements and the components to bring it into the earthly experience. All right, let's go. All righty. Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And I want to say this too, because your ruling planet, Jupiter, is having a conversation today with Mercury retrograde. So this is really kind of like big conceptual beliefs, and it's making a square to the moon in Cancer. So I want to say, how am I nurturing myself? Do I believe I need to take care of others to a place where I feel I'm depleted? Because I think it's super important to see the wisdom of self-care so that we can care for others. Oh, is Scorpio's royals? That makes sense to me. That because it rules billionaires. That makes sense. Okay. All right, here we go. Sagittarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Your first angel is Merlina. The second is Celeste. The third is Seraphina. And the final is Ray. The other thing that could be going on here, and Stephen kind of pops in my head as I say that, is I know you just finished your job and you may be looking and pursuing a new job. The Queen of Pentacles would tell you to keep your eye on the prize of what you really want, not about your wallet, to trust that you've started a path of momentum, that if you keep following your heart, that you will be prolific. Merlina is being joined by movement. Celeste is being joined by the novice. Seraphina is being joined by the goblin. And Ray is being joined by the queen. Okay, so this is where I'm going. Again, when we think about a baton pass, so a few weeks ago, I think I told you guys I had to call in sick. Oh, thank you, Penelope. That's so sweet of you. Because I had that sciatic, whatever that was. Okay, and I went from sciatica to sinus. I've never had allergies in my life, and my brain feels like it's this big, and I know that Mars is Pluto squaring Mars. It's squaring my sun again. It's squaring my ascendant. I have Saturn on Chiron. And, did I think about death and that, maybe I'm going to wake up dead and my dog is going to be here by himself? But at the same time, I thought, you know what? I've been calling forth a deeper connection to spirit. I've been calling forth wanting to stand as representing what can be when we focus our thought and we follow our heart. And so my body is requiring me to give up some old habits from my victimhood. Okay. And so I believe that I got sucked into a ham and cheese croissant on, Feel the Love Friday at Starbucks. Now I know I'm being silly here, but that ham and cheese croissant killed me. And I keep thinking I can be like my old self that used to eat all that all the time. It is a product of my age on some level, but it is a product of my vibration and what I've been asking for in the way of manifesting. So Sagittarius, there is something very important happening for you to manifest in a much bigger way. Now, your moment in time is to stand in this moment of unsureness. I don't know where the magic's coming from, but Spirit's got the baton here. And I want to offer this too, because I feel as if that there's something going on physically, not a negative thing, of almost like a vibrational upgrade. I guess I want to put it that way. So at this time, with all these squares going on between Uranus and Saturn and 6 planets retrograde, I feel like I want to say to Sagittarius, and that opposition we talked about earlier between Mercury and Jupiter, am I standing in a vibration now that representing what can be when the human aligns to their co-creation? And do I not know that my job right now is not necessarily to be confused, but to allow Merlina to do her magic, because this is the baton pass. Because there, I think, is a new job coming for some of you. And if not a new job, a complete new shift in a belief system. Celeste represents a new job, a new place of employment, a new home, and there's the unstable new beginning. So while I believe this could be a new job for many who are seeking work from a heart-based place, you're going to start to represent the possibilities as you give life to this unstable new beginning, because you have recognized where your ego says, if I don't do it, how will it happen? And Spirit's saying it's not about you doing, it's about you being in the alignment of your own dreams so that they can inspire action. Seraphina represents a happy home, represents feeling at home. And where do we feel at home? We feel at home in here. If we don't feel at home in here, it ain't happening. I don't care who you are. Because in the final position is Spirit bringing something in. Now we start with the Queen of Pentacles and we end with the Queen. This is a powerful energy where the opposition between Mercury, what I think, and Jupiter, what do I believe? I believe that there's more out here than I can see. Sometimes, I laugh. I watch all these weird shows on TV like that, you guys know, and I watch this Expedition Bigfoot, okay, on the Travel Channel. And I'm always kind of a little envious when they're out in the woods in the middle of the night, because the amount of stars above them is uncountable, infantile. And yet here we focus on these few planets, and there's a lot more going on within the intricacy of this universe. So I feel like this is an opportunity for Sagittarius to really broaden, to keep the eye on the prize of what they really want, and don't settle. Don't settle for what looks good, but deep inside doesn't necessarily feel aligned. And in that moment, being brave enough to say, well, if this is actually the thing, then if I say maybe no to this okay feeling, like I'm just going to pause and let Spirit, you don't know how that other side may pony up, or something may, I guess, to be kind of, here's an example. A job opportunity comes in and they say, oh, we're going to pay you this amount, we're going to give you this. And you're like, that's okay. But it really wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted more personal time. I wanted more autonomy. I want to work from home. So instead of agreeing to something that is 80% correct, you say, you know what? I appreciate your offer, but I really would prefer to blah, 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 blah. And that brave moment has them come back and say to you, fine, we agree to your terms. And that changes everything, because then you start to see how Spirit is aligning to a bigger picture of what you want and need. And it doesn't really matter whether there's a Mercury retrograde, a Uranus retrograde, a Saturn retrograde, or whatever. Those retrogrades were offering you a challenging dynamic so you could push through it and feel empowered by it. All right, let's go on. And I wanted to say this too, because you guys, the things that I tell you are truly from Spirit, because I'm not always great at it as a human. I have my own up and down, all around, story. So I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's never about perfection as I thought it once was, but rather just a willingness to continue to persevere. All right, let's look at our Capricorns. Now, this is interesting to me because we have the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Fire. We can see the Leo lion above her head, in the crest, in the chair. We can see the black cat here. We can see her holding her wand. And it's interesting because this is one of the wands that doesn't have any foliage on it, because she's held this for so long. She's held this energy of inspiration for others when they could not be inspired for themselves. And I feel like that's what this is. There's an opportunity. We have the moon going into Leo this week. I didn't write that down. But as Capricorn moves forward this week, I want to offer you the opportunity that there could be inspirations that are coming through that will help you rewrite your story from duty to delight. Again, this is where I think the real Uranus and Saturn square, where the rubber meets the road. I believe this is the third time that we're going through this long pass between these two planets. And we know we're not going to see them do this again for, decades before they meet up in another sign and square. So I feel for my Capricorns, this is an opportunity for you to, there's one little leaf on that. One little leaf right there. But I want to offer this because are you willing to allow yourself to be inspired, or are you so busy trying to take action, move the story forward? Let's look and see. Because I think it's super important for us to start to realize that inspired action is not a luxury. It is a powerful tool for manifestation. Moving forward on a dutiful energy is really a limited. There's limited results there. Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Sonia. The second is Astera. The third is Xana. And the final is Vanessa. Sonia is being joined by the owl. Astera is being joined by the butterfly. Xana is being joined by the spider. And Vanessa is being joined by the fire fairy, which would be very much the Queen of Wands. Okay, so this is what I want to say, because as Pluto's been transiting Capricorn, it has offered a lot of change and maybe a little bit challenging for some Capricorns because, you're used to that specific material structure that has been given to you, the structure that you have been raised upon, because we've all been raised upon a structure within our families, within our communities, within our ethnicities, etc. Because now I think that there's an opportunity for Capricorn to really start to use their connection to spirit to differentiate between what has been given to them and what they choose. And when I look at that, I'm kind of referring to the Mercury Jupiter opposition and the idea that that's squaring the moon today and giving you an opportunity to look at Pluto, as it's in the last degrees of Capricorn, and looking at the aspects it's making to Venus this week about your own self-worth and if it is aligned. Because the beauty of Capricorn, the beauty of building something in the material world is it allows others to view it. It allows others to celebrate it. And I feel like this time, implementing all the same basic dynamics of Saturn, but at a raised vibration, the wisdom of, okay, I'm going to take all the elements of my tenacity and my determination, but now I'm moving them towards my own personal inspirations, because the butterfly offers you transformation. This is the ultimate Pluto energy. All of you that are running around saying, oh, I love my butterflies. Do you know what that caterpillar went through to become a butterfly? Holy Mother of God. Because now is the time to reach for the stars and see the wisdom of that caterpillar's journey. Because you are being protected. And I believe that you're being protected. Not now, I don't want to put this in the relationship category. I want to say that everything you have in your vortex, everything you have in your heart that you want to experience, the reasons you came to this planet, they are all viable and they will all come to you as you stand in inspired action and you allow yourself to take these beautiful qualities of amassing and building, and then you do it on a new platform, a platform of faith in a picture that says, if I give life to my wants and desires, am I not giving life to everybody else's? Because that's the shadow side of Capricorn. The shadow side says, this is what we're supposed to do. And I don't care if you like it, my loved one. You're going to do what you're supposed to do, not what you want to do. And so here we see Capricorn shifting. This is where we see the true evolution of Capricorn and the beauty of what Pluto has brought to you. Now you rise like the phoenix, and now you take inspired action on faith. And that's where the leadership really comes in. All right. These are the higher vibrations of this planet. I, as an intuitive astrologer, will no longer give life to those key words in a way that diminishes the human experience. Every coin has two sides. Every up has a down. So we are empowered by some of the more shattered experiences. But as we give life to the idea that that very challenge is how we will feel empowered. I literally cried yesterday because I was working with a client and I wanted them, they have aspirations in some respects to be a chef. And I showed them this clip of Christine Ha and her audition for Master Chef. And when you first look at Christine, she's not obviously blind because she had sight her whole life. There's nothing in her eyes that reflects blindness. She doesn't wear glasses. And so when she was talking, it's like you're listening to any normal person. Then as she entered the Master Chef kitchen with her cane, I watched my client's face be amazed. And, all I could really do was say, this is what happens when you have tenacity, when you're willing to push beyond the limits, because she's an amazingly inspiring woman. So let's all allow ourselves to be inspired by our challenges instead of diminished by them. It's not easy. All right. Capricorn, from Capricorn, we're going to Aquarius. Now, we have this is a rather, I want to tell you, this is a little bit of a rough energy for me. It has a very Martian energy because it feels like this guy's moving so quick. He doesn't really take into consideration the type of carnage he may be leaving behind. So I want to offer this because we're going to look and see where potentially Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums their mind might be running amok. And if for some reason I kind of want to go to the idea that there could be an anxious feeling, as the square between Saturn and Uranus, lingers on, a lot of astrologers won't talk about it on a weekly basis because it feels redundant. And at the same time, it is so powerful how it is affecting us because, Saturn and Uranus both rule Aquarius. So you could be feeling sort of this push, pull, this interior turmoil between just wanting to get it over with. Like, let's just get this over with. And at the same time, is my anxiousness going to be, am I going to miss something if I move too quickly? So let's look and see. Because one of the things we see in this card, when we look closely, is on the armor of the horse are these little butterflies. And then there's little red cardinals. And I feel like this is what this guy is missing, is that there's evolution to be had because he's so busy charging ahead with the way he's thinking. So let's see, Aquarius. Desiree is our first angel. The second is Athena. The third is Archangel Uriel. And the final is Isabella. Desiree is being joined by the communications card. Athena is being joined by the risk card. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the partnership card. And Isabella is being joined by the eagle. So this confirms for me that what we're doing is we're really looking at Aquarius's thoughts. And we know that Uranus can make you feel like a nervous wreck. It rules nervous breakdowns. And I think your thoughts might be running amok, or they're moving too quickly, or they're moving too quickly down a path that doesn't serve your greatest good, because Desiree is saying conditions are not favorable. And there's the communications card. Mercury is retrograde. Yes, it is. But I don't know that this is necessarily about other people. I think this could be self-talk. I think as we watch Mercury creep into Virgo, there could be this opportunity for you to really sit back and look deeper into the process of your own thoughts, because you could potentially be wanting to implement a solution that is premature. That's the way I want to put it. It's almost as if Aquarius may be assessing things and looking at things from a certain perception, and yet there's a piece of information missing. Because right now I see Athena, it's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself, and there's the risk card. But I don't think that it's about asserting yourself to others. I think it's about looking at how you're working with your own frustration, how you're dealing with your own sense of, Mercury brings old things back. It brings things back up for review. And if we've been going around a mulberry bush, if we've been, sometimes at 63 years old almost, I look back and I can't believe I still have so much discontent with the experience I had with my father. I have a lot of disappointment surrounding my family. I have a lot of feelings of abandonment and isolation. And there's been triggers going on lately for me that have brought that back around. When I have a challenge, I don't have anyone to talk to about it, because the people in my life say, oh, you'll figure it out. You've got this. And that might be very well true, but it doesn't feel supportive. So there's something going on right now with Aquarius where your own process is feeling repetitive and frustrating. And it's, I think, putting your mind in an old pattern that is actually not serving you, that's actually working you up into a place that might actually feel very frustrating. Because I think what Isabella is saying right now is, yes, the timing is right for you to allow your this feels like Jupiter to me. Jupiter is in opposition to Mercury at the 4th degree of Cancer. And I want to ask you, Aquarius, are you nurturing yourself? Are you nurturing your mind? Are you giving yourself a break? Can you say, maybe I can't do anything about that right now? Maybe that particular line of thought is what it is because it's running amok. And what if I just don't act on it? What if I just let it be? What if I just wait for it to move past me like a fart? Honestly, there's something going on here where I feel like the stars could align us to wanting to take action. And then that action isn't based on a platform of really winning, but an old pattern. And then just slow my roll. So Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, I think this could be a very powerful week to sort of try not to have a knee-jerk reaction to something, to give yourself a moment to sit back and decide how you want to respond to it. Because I think at the end of the day, you may not necessarily feel like you've accomplished you're getting your point across to another person, but I do think you have an opportunity to feel really good about how you showed up during this time. One of the things as we enter Libra season and we enter the harvest, here, the season of harvest, it's about really looking at what have I traversed over the year 2022. I'm going to do a separate video on the new moon, so that will be there, but that's going to be next Sunday. And I feel like this is all about coming into cooperation with the ebb and the flow, coming into cooperation with the yes and the no, the fun and the not fun, the challenging and the not challenging. And so I feel like Aquarius has a real opportunity to recognize that maybe conditions for communication, especially with family members or anybody you have a repetitive pattern of behavior with, that's kind of where I want to go. That's where I think we may be walking more into treacherous territory. So if you have challenging relationships with your siblings and there's a little bit of a tense conversation, or your children or your teammates at work, any of your Gemini people, maybe it's an opportunity to sort of sit back a little bit and then allow spirit to diffuse the situation. Okay, let's go on to our Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I think you guys really, if you took an inventory of all the things you've done, you could be very proud of yourself. The human doesn't really allow for a lot of pride in itself, to be honest. It's almost as if once the human accomplishes something, they're like, oh, yeah, I did that. And they're on to the next thing. All right. We need to sit in our accomplishments more. I remember when I was in my 20s in therapy, that was one of my exercises. My therapist had me come home every day and review 3 things in the day where I either felt complimented, appreciated, either by myself or another. And it wasn't easy to do at first, but it made me aware of how often my mind boomeranged to my problems, my challenges, where I felt slighted or ignored. And in noticing that, it became very illuminating how I was contributing to my own unhappiness. Yay. All right, Pisces. Yay. Look at that, the 4 of Wands. The 4 of Wands is a card of celebration. And I can't help but feel the harvest within this card. You know, like the orange colors, the yellow, the green, and the wreath, and all the foliage there. Pisces, I think there could be potentially something to celebrate. And I want to offer it this way because we're going to see an opposition coming up between, was it Venus? Let me look at my notes real quick. And the dead bug. Yes, we're going to see an opposition by Friday between Venus at 23 degrees Virgo and Neptune retrograde at 23 degrees Pisces. And I want to offer it this way because that opposition, as it may bring up something, and, you know, they talk about we very much people focus in on Neptune being erosive, of being like the escapism part, the not seeing things clearly. But I want to offer it this way because it's also very intuitive. It's very compassionate. So I feel like, you know what? This is an opportunity for you to look at that opposition and say, where can I celebrate myself and my own journey? And it's okay to look at people from the glass half full. It's okay to see the best in them. And it's okay to see the best in them and still walk away from them when that best is not aligned. Because I want to offer it this way. There's a little bit of a diminishment with Pisces. You know, there's this feeling of it's the 12th house. It rules right before you go back into the collective. And so there's this feeling of giving up myself in that mutable energy. And there's a beauty to cooperation. And this is why I think that we see the axes the way they are. So when we're looking at Venus in Virgo and we're looking at Neptune in Pisces, how can I find the processes that allow me to find myself as valuable as I find everybody else? That's kind of how I want to put it, because I think this is about celebrating the self. I think this is about Pisces celebrating what they've created. I think this is about celebrating focus. And I want to say this too, because I can't help but notice this little bridge right here. And I feel like Pisces has crossed a bridge of some kind. And I think that bridge is not, it feels like just like the bridge looks, there's this roundness to it. So everything has this opportunity to find a wisdom within it. Well, I would imagine that, you know, I watched a Karate Kid last night. You know, it came out in 1984, and I got to tell you, I was kind of surprised because, first of all, it takes place where I grew up, Reseda, Encino, in the San Fernando Valley, and the sights, the sounds, the smells, and I literally had smells. But I want to offer this because so much of the journey of many of us who are going against the grain within ourselves or afraid to go against the grain, this is why we incarnated now, to represent the evolution. So let's look at what Pisces has to celebrate. Rosetta, teaching children, parenting, involving children. Here's Opal, talking about children being safe in heaven and earth. There's Desiree, and there's Athena. Okay, so I want to offer this because as I look at this, the first thing I see is this is about you. This is about I like that evolution of revolution. Because revolution, I think, is an important. First, we revolutionize ourselves. Rosetta is being joined by the Death Guard. Opal's being joined by the Wasp. Desiree is being joined by the Focus card. And Athena's being joined by the Fire Fairy. Okay. All right. This is a little bit challenging in this spread, but I will say this, because if that opposition between Venus and Neptune brings a disappointment of some kind, then this is an opportunity for my Pisces to go into meditation, to connect with spirit in a bigger way, to see a wisdom here, because Rosetta represents parenting and teaching, and there's the Death card. And I don't think this is necessarily a death, but it may be an opportunity for a transformation in how you're perceiving things. If you as a Pisces have held yourself small in relationships or held yourself in a more, I want to say, childlike way, there is the potential that whatever is revealed within the opposition between Venus and Neptune, and then again we've got this square that's hovering in the background, where an old structure, Saturn, is going to be unexpectedly shifted. And so here, in the opportunity, the obstacle, it made me feel like Pisces may feel like a dream of theirs is being killed, or they may feel a waspy energy. And I think maybe that there's a little bit of, I want to make sure that Pisces is sitting fully in the energy of the Four of Wands, truly looking at each little thing and saying, is this going to make me happy? Is this going to make me happy? Is this, because that mutable energy may inadvertently feel like if somebody else is happy, then I'll be happy. And that might not necessarily be serving the bigger picture of what's going on here. Because here, this is so important to make sure that you are a 50% mix within your own life, because Desiree is asking you to revisit your focus. To revisit, because I think sometimes we need to look at things more than once, because we have a patterned way of thinking. We have a patterned way of experiencing things based on the brand. I started this broadcast talking about our minds being branded like a cow being branded on a ranch, and that brand will never really go away. So there could potentially be an opportunity for you to truly be able to celebrate your willingness to assert yourself towards your inspired action. That's what Neptune offers. Inspired action. Once the reason that Neptune is foggy, okay, is because the human is used to seeing with their eyeballs. So when the human is looking through their eyeballs, if they're in the water, Neptune, you can't see. You have to feel it on an intuitive level. So I really believe that this, on some level, could potentially foretell a transformation in your inner child. You may be thinking there were things you wanted, and now you realize, I'm not sure I want those like I used to want them. And so now there's a conflict of some kind. And now, in the recognition of that conflict, you could inadvertently judge yourself. There's no need to judge. Now it's just a recognition. Oh, okay. And then giving yourself permission to walk the journey of empowerment by slowly asserting yourself towards inspirational things that you feel inspired by. And if for some reason this week doesn't produce an obvious inspiration, the idea that you've given yourself this journey can give you an inspiration. All right, let's move forward with our Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Can never forget about Chiron. Chiron transiting through Aries right now. And in some ways, Chiron in Aries is going to exasperate the wound of self. So let's see. Oh, yay, Aries. Here's the sun shining. This is also representing Leo. It's representing an opportunity to feel and celebrate joy and allow the sun to shine. And I want to offer this too, because we'll look and see where this spread is. But Aries is a sign of leadership. I always think of it sort of as the general to the king. It's also the pioneer, willing to go into situations that are unfamiliar, dealing with instinct here. It's also the hero energy. Now, oftentimes when astrologers look at your chart and they see where Mars is in your chart, they're going to tell you are angry, resentful, that your reactions are knee-jerk and aggressive. I don't agree with that. Is it possible? Yes. But here I am talking to a tribe of people who have been consciously aware of wanting to create a happy life, wanting to be the co-creators of their life. So let's take this to the higher vibration. Let's look at this as an opportunity to see Jupiter transiting through my house of self and seeing Chiron and being able to look and see how am I allowing my wound to be transformed, to empower me, to because the thing about it is if a human has no challenges and has no wounds, their relatability is like zero, right? People will be like, well, I'm really glad you have a nice life, but that has nothing to do with me and you can't help me in any way. So when we are most inspired, we are inspired by those that had a warrior energy that kept going regardless of results. And this is where the sun becomes that Leo energy of leadership. Okay? And leadership isn't because I'm saying follow me. It's because I'm following the sun. I'm following where things are growing. And I'm vulnerable on that journey. Okay, let's see, Aries. Here we go. Merlina's in the first position, Desiree's in the second position, Crystal's in the third position, and Seraphina's in the final position. It's funny, this last week, I've had my window covering broke, and the maintenance guy is a real piece of work. Okay. He's super passive aggressive. He tells lies all the time. Like he says, I'll be there at 8:00. Then he doesn't show up for 6 hours and says there was a plumbing emergency. Can't tell you how often there's a plumbing emergency. So you start to see smoke being blown up your skirt when you deal with this guy, right? And at the same time, he talks like this, and he talks really soft and really meek and mild. So he has this appearance of being very cooperative. Now, I say all this because I'm talking to Aries right now, right? And Aries is like, I ain't listening to that nonsense, because what I want to say is this last week, I was super proud of myself because I didn't let this guy bait me into being Aryan. We know that Aries is going through, Mars is going through Gemini right now. The neighborhood is inflamed. The teammates are inflamed. Mercury retrograde. And I got to tell you too, this guy is so passive aggressive that what he will do is he will never communicate with you again. And the people he works for think he's a little prince. And I may never get another window covering if I wait for this guy. But I also know that how I show up is super important, Aries, because I feel like I've got to be a bit of a leader and vulnerable to my connection with spirit on some level, that maybe there's something bigger going on that I can't see. So let me explain how I see this. Merlina says you're confused and indecisive, and Aries may want to take action. Do I want to call the office and say, hey, what's up with this guy? I haven't heard from him, blah, blah, blah. But there's a part of me that already knows my energy would not be aligned. I would have an aggressive stance regardless of how I tried to be, because I feel aggressive on the inside. So while I may not have any information and I may feel like I'm behind this big 8-ball, of this big man wanting to not really do their job, right? But now there's an opportunity for me to allow magic to happen. And that magic is to stand in leadership, not for these people, but for myself and what I know about the laws of attraction, about my own energy when I walk into a situation. Because as an Aries rising, most everybody can see me coming. So here's Desiree saying conditions aren't favorable. And then there's the fear card, which is really face everything and rise. So up until now, I have felt powerless over this person's passive aggressive energy. And I have experienced him winning. But I have been angry, I have been resentful, and I've come at things very aggressively. Pluto, when it first started making its squares to me, I wasn't aware and I was acting Plutonian, okay? I was being dominant. It wasn't serving me. So, what I started to do was to meditate. And when this guy this week was literally wasting my days, and you got to know, I don't have a job. I mean, I have a job, but if I'm waiting for the maintenance man, I'm not making any money. And he knows that. So instead of calling me and saying I'm going to be late, he just blows me off. He's baiting me. Okay. Now, this is my point. In knowing that, am I going to react to it? Because in the Angels of Light, Crystal is saying something's happening, and there's the movement card. And my job right now is not to let this guy get the best of me. And I want to say it this way, because as I this week did not let him get the best of me, I went into meditation. I went into meditation and I stayed in a place where I kind of put myself almost like I felt like a horse in a stall, a really tight place in order for me to stand in leadership for myself, because Serafina offers a happy change to the family, but this is about conquering Aries aggression, Aries resentment, Aries lower keys this week, lower key words as I like to refer to them, because this is the ability to hold your truth during a storm. And sometimes, because Aries has that hero energy, I've got to rush in, I've got to fix things. I feel like sometimes we miss the forest through the trees. So there's an opportunity to feel real leadership this week. There's an opportunity to see the illusion that even though things may appear one way on the outside, there could be a lot more going on than I know. And this is kind of how I want to, give you the analogy. What occurred to me was, I can tend to personalize this. I can tend to say, this guy does this to me. I don't think that's really true. I think he does it to everybody. I think he's lazy. I think he's like Mr. Jack me off, kind of, pardon my language, shucking and jiving all over the place. So maybe there's an opportunity through this situation by me being quiet for him to be exposed. And that's where I feel like Spirit is asking Aries to be very aware of your energy as you move forward. And I actually feel like Spirit is saying, just sit on your horse and be vulnerable for a minute so you can have a different experience. And that's why there's a happy change to your family. The Lady of the Lake is also about self-respect. And I feel too, for Aries, I want to offer this because I think at this moment, there's always going to be the unconscious Aries acting super aggressive and, not nice. But those of us that are walking through this energy and learning how to work with it in a constructive manner, I think that this is also an opportunity this week just to focus on that. It's really not about what gets accomplished on the outside, but seeing the absolute truth that you're doing your best in this moment. And if Mercury retrograde is bringing back some old things that are feeling repetitive, you don't have to respond to them in a repetitive way. I'm kind of thinking like this, it's like somebody can talk trash about you, but if you don't show up that way, there's no evidence of it. So sometimes no speak is speak. That's where I'm going. All right. And that's why I think this offers something actually really good. I was very proud of myself this week because I didn't let this guy bait me, because he can bait me so badly. I can't even tell you. He can really get under my skin because I hate his little soft voice pretending to be nice. Ooh, 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 ooh. This guy's such a piece of work. All right. We're going on to our Tauruses. There's the Six of Wands. This is a card of victory. And this is not easily won, this victory. And so let's see where we're going. I want to know, where are we in our mind? Are we in our heart? What is happening with that square? Just to go back a little bit to the Aries thing, every time I've come at something hard, like I'm right and I know I'm right. I know I'm being just, supposedly. My attitude about it, my aggressiveness has never served me, never got me anywhere. In fact, it's even been more frustrating when people say, you're right, but the way you show up just doesn't work. And then I just want to go crazy. But they are correct in my alignment isn't there. And so even though they don't know how to use that word as I've grown up historically, I'm more aware of my alignment these days than I am about making sure somebody else knows they're wrong. Lucky's good. Can you see him? He's under the desk. In fact, it's weird. Since we had our heat wave the last 2 weeks, he keeps jumping off the bed and going to sleep here in the living room because it's so much cooler. And it's made me get, for the first time in 10 and a half years, getting used to sleeping without him. All right. Oh, we're on to I'm sorry. We are on our Tauruses. Sorry, I got a little distracted. We're looking at victory, and we're looking at, I love this green here. So I'm really thinking maybe our victory comes from trusting our heart a little bit here. I have thought about that creative flow seeker. I did create a brave heart meditation deck, and I actually even started doing some videos on them. But a lot of the things I've endeavored this year, I've been pushing kind of a rock uphill. So I have these moments of being able to move the story forward, and then moments where I'm feeling really pulled back. Again, I got a lot of transits going on right now that are redefining me, is the way I want to put it. So Taurus, our first angel is Aurora. The second is Rosetta. The third is Seraphina. And the final is Merlina. We have Aurora being joined by the frog. We have Rosetta being joined by the horse. We have Seraphina being joined by the disruption card. And then we have Merlina being joined by the partnership card. When I look at this, I feel like the first thing I kind of see is this Venus aspect this week. Venus is moving forward. She's like by herself. The rest of seems like all the other planets are going backwards. But I want to offer it this way because Venus rules our money. She rules beauty. She rules our food. She rules the things that make us feel at home and cozy and comfortable. And for Taurus, she's super important to feeling like you're viable in the world. And I want to offer it this way because I think maybe with the North Node and Uranus moving through your house, you may have been so focused on things that have yet to materialize, that are still in process, that you're well on your way to victory, okay, to receiving them. And so now I think that this is really an opportunity for you to realize that you are in process of this reception. You have flown off the balcony of your own life, and that this is an opportunity for you to start to experience I want to offer it this way because the frog represents the cleaning of the mind. And I never believe that the mind will be scrubbed so clean that it doesn't have its memories, but we can be victorious over those memories by seeing the wisdom of the challenge. The one thing, if I was to have a fear, it would be to be successful in a way where I never had to walk through fear. Fear is a strengthening tool. When you've walked through a challenge, you believe that you can walk through the next challenge. So as you accomplish things and you get this momentum going, this is where the real victory lies. This is where the real trust of my heart lies. And that trust of my heart, this green coat, gives me the basis to ride the victory in, to feel safe and secure within my own life. Because I feel like Uranus is liberating you a bit, liberating you from maybe your old story, your history. And it isn't liberating you because it went away. It's liberating you because you've incorporated it somehow. I'm looking at the horse here as a spiritual energy representing Sagittarius and Jupiter, representing your beliefs, and being able to almost see how this refresh is the way I want to put it. you know what? That was then. This is now. And now I have an opportunity for a whole new existence to come in. Because I want to say it this way. You know, most of us are raised on like Disney and these fantasy sort of things that, while we see, you know, Bambi lose his mother in the early part of the movie, there's always this sort of coming back around feeling. And of of the fairy tale is, how can I describe this? Taurus, the way I want to say it is I feel a little bit like sometimes we bet on things emotionally, and they don't really serve us. You know, it isn't because somebody comes in and rides up on their horse that saves our ass. It's because we come in and ride up on our own horse and save our ass. Because there's something going on here about coming into partnership with the ebb and the flow of your own mind. Taurus is a fixed sign. I'm emotionally fixed. In Placidus, my moon is in Taurus in the first house. My family history dominates my emotional being. And I oftentimes, you know, struggle with this wanting to have that story be over with, be gone, be, you know, like it's old, it's buried, but it isn't. It's a part of my emotional makeup. So when I allow that to be the platform for my rising up versus my tearing down, that's how I find value in my mind. Because it's time to move in a new direction and allow spirit to teach me more about what my childhood had to serve me versus tethering me. Because the fixedness of Taurus is very, very focused. There's an opportunity. Do you want to experience a happy life, or do you focus on the disruption? Because it's time to come into partnership with your story. You know, I referred to Christine Ha earlier, and truly, if anyone looks at inspirational characters throughout history, throughout fairy tales, throughout fiction, and, you know, the human drama, we are all inspired by those that walked a path that was not happy or comfortable. We are inspired by those that have fallen down and raised back up. So somewhere I think that the true victory comes for Taurus in sort of giving themselves this a break. It's like, you know what? My mind does boomerang back to my story. It does have a tendency to look back before it moves forward, but that's okay, because I'm going to just continue to seek a new direction and not judge if I'm still kind of stuck with one foot in and one foot out. That's the way I want to put it. The fixed signs, you know, it's interesting to me because when I think about the wheel, right, we have the cardinal signs which rule north, south, east, and west, because the cardinal signs are a combination of fixed and mutable. They're a little bit of both. And, you know, they're all about balance, you know. So when we go to the fixed signs, it's the same dynamic, and the fixedness gives us an opportunity to identify where the human gets in their own way because they're their own worst critic. They're overthinking. Exactly, Lucy Rose. So now this is about coming into partnership. And Merlina doesn't represent confusion anymore. She represents magic. She represents an opportunity to come into partnership with the wisdom of challenge. And the empowerment of it. All right. Enough of that. Let's go on to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Mars is in the house Gemini for the longest time. Here we go. The Justice card. Okay. You know, I kind of look at this. Obviously, this is a Libra energy. We see the sword, we see the scales of justice. And I want to offer it this way because one of the dominant colors here is the purple and the yellow. The purple is divine wisdom, and the yellow is our power chakra. And I feel as if, you know, with Gemini right now, I'm going to say this, with Mars going through your house forever, and it's going to, you know, we're barely in the the Mars energy of Gemini, because it's not even going retrograde until like the end of October, but we'll see the shadow period start. We've seen a lot of, I mean, I think even Ozzy Osbourne said he's going back to the UK because it's too crazy here with violence, and it is. But I want to offer it this way, because with Gemini, I think that the Mars energy offers an opportunity to be a hero energy as you seek balance within your own thought process. That's the swords. And you put yourself in play. You put yourself on that scale. Okay, let's see where we're going with this. Because if for some reason Gemini is feeling as if duty is taking over or obligations are taking over, that could get overwhelming. Our first angel for Gemini is Mystique. The second is Yvonne. The third is Ray. And the final is Chantal. Mystique is being joined by the Burden card. Yvonne is being joined by the Birth and the Rebirth card. Ray is being joined by the Cow. And Chantal is being joined by the Love card. Okay, I'm going to be a little bit crazy right now with Gemini. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. I think for my Geminis, each and every one of you, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, I think this is a week where really connecting with spirit is super important. I think your meditations will be super important. I think this is where you will find a calming of your mind. I don't know if you like, the kind of meditations where you listen to like an air conditioner and you just go into that white noise, or you like guided meditations. But let me offer this because I feel as if there's a bit of burden. And when Mystique is here, it's about charging ahead and expecting miraculous solutions. And there's the Burden card. And there's been this feeling for Gemini of disruption within teammates, workmates, siblings, anywhere I'm interacting with others. Feels like old patterns are being stoked on some level. And so now, in order to feel some balance and balance within your own thought process, I almost feel like I want to take it off the table. I almost feel like, you know what? If it's hard to move ahead, maybe it's trying not to move ahead. Maybe this is just about a recalibration right here. Because Yvonne is the card of vulnerability, and there's the Birth and the Rebirth card. And this is another thing that I literally feel like sometimes the transits, you make their shift and my whole world changes. And back in July, at the end of July, I got this, or beginning of July, I can't quite remember, I got triggered in a couple of ways. My money making got triggered, my body got triggered, and I found myself sitting thinking, have I worked this hard to try to be happy and I'm not going to do it? I'm going to always feel this bit of discontent. And I kept saying to myself, no, there's a bigger picture here. There must be deeper levels of patterned behavior and thought that I'm unaware of and I'm operating on. And I started to see it. So I surrendered to the trying to move ahead. Do I have lots of ideas? Yes. I want to start a podcast. I want to, I have a million different ideas for videos. And every day I'm finding myself pushing that rock uphill. You know what? This is a time maybe to rest, to be vulnerable to the idea of my birth and my rebirth, because maybe there's more going on than I can see. Maybe there's a gestation period of something that I'm not even aware of, because in the opportunity, the obstacle is bounty. And the bounty comes from a deeper connection of meditation, of deeper awareness of your own. I want to offer it this way, because Gemini rules persuasive thought. It rules little bits of information. It rules communication between others, Mercury's still going to do that in Virgo. I feel like in Virgo, it's going, this is the process I took to get this done. So you're like telling somebody, where Gemini is more conversational, because I feel like it's super important for Gemini to sit back and really reevaluate what makes them feel happy, what makes them feel loved and happy. Because I don't think Chantal's about romance. I think this is about you loving on you. and slowing your roll for everybody else. And maybe even the transit of Mars going through Gemini right now has been stoking this feeling of, I want to take brave action for myself, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know what the process is. And that's why there's this burden to move ahead. So I want to go back into meditation. I feel like this particular week would best be served and be most just for you, just to allow yourself to go back to basics rather than trying to take physical action and move the story forward, because Mercury wants to move, wants to move, wants to move. And this is something else I want to tell you. This is really weird. Since Mars moved into Gemini, I cannot sit down. Like even when I'm trying to watch TV, I'm up and down and all around and like almost like a shark energy. So if for some reason there's a little shark energy going on for Gemini, slow your roll, go into your meditations, take walks, anything you can do that allows your mind to try to go into a neutral place. That's where, because I feel like that's where inspired action will come through. And that's where self-care will come through. And there'll be a crack and an opening for you to start something new. And when I say start something new, I mean something that has to do with your everyday activities, something that feels more aligned to you, feeling joy within it. And I think this is sort of what this ending, this harvest season we're going into, and this square between Uranus and Saturn and all the retrogrades are giving us this year end to sort of go through this harvest season and then into the winter of meditating and gestating, so that as we move into 2023 and 2024 and some of these more harsh aspects move out, we'll be better aligned to take inspired action into the next step. Because I really believe that there's something going on with Gemini that's going to shift your everyday activities to feel more appreciation, for you to feel more loved in the world. Okay. All right. You know, as I do my work, and I do love my work, most of my clients are freaked out. They're in panic. They're in challenges. And when somebody's uncomfortable and unhappy, their discomfort becomes a very large motivator. And so sometimes I feel a little bowled over by people. You know, they need me. They don't care if it's 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, whatever. They'll still reach out to me and expect a response. And the reason I say that is because I'm the one who has got to put those healthy boundaries in, or I'm going to build feelings of resentment. So Gemini, I feel like it's super important for you to really honor thyself. Honor thyself in a way that might feel slightly uncomfortable. Love on yourself, nurture yourself, take a hot bath, buy yourself the new top or the new tennies, have that good meal, whatever is important to you. Give yourself that moment, because I think in giving yourself that moment, it's going to pop something and bring a sense of balance and justice in. All right. Cancer. News is coming. Something is coming. The Eight of Wands represents conclusions, news, and endings of some kind. Let's see where we're going with this. Whoop! Well, let me grab the cards flying out of the deck. Okay, let's see what's going on here. The Patience card flew out. Celeste flew out. Sorry to hit the table. Rochelle flew out of the deck. Okay. And Rosetta. When we talk about Cancer, we talk about an intuitive energy. We talk about a maternal energy. We talk about nurturing. And oftentimes Cancer nurtures others and doesn't put themselves in the mix. So I think this is going to be something where maybe the Eight of Wands is putting an end to a lack of self-care and maybe finding the wisdom within that. Meaning if I take care of me, I do take care of you. The Patience card is being joined by the Dragon. Celeste is being joined by the perception card. Rochelle's being joined by the partnership card. And the final Rosetta is being joined by the frog. In every situation, as I do this work, I feel as if I am that Libra sun seeking balance within the dark and the light, within the gray spots. And when I look at the patience card, I feel as if this is a time of observation and an observation of the dragon energy. Am I powerfully and lovingly asserting myself towards myself? Cancer is about patriotism. It's about the homeland. It's about my property, my home, my people, my tribe. And within it, I feel like this calmness comes from walking a road of being aware of how vulnerable you have been to others. And as a result of your vulnerability, you're taking your power back. And I don't mean it in a negative way or in a warrior energy, as much as you realize that I've been purporting a line of thought. I've had a perception that this is something I must do. And while I enjoy doing this nurturing energy, while I enjoy the idea of my Cancerian energy, making others feel empowered or feel nurtured or feel loved, I also am starting to realize that this may be a bit out of balance, because it's time for Cancer to come into partnership with their own heart. Rochelle, I've said this for years. She's my favorite energy because she says, as I honor my needs, prosperity is coming to me, love, feeling a give and take, a back and forth energy, a partnership between my heart and the heart I love of others. Because Rosetta's in the final position, and I believe that you are better serving yourself and the people that you love as you come into balance with this self-care idea. And in doing so, there becomes an ending. There's an ending to the imbalance. Unfortunately, when we love somebody too much, they don't feel love. They feel obligation. And oftentimes, I don't know if you girls have ever experienced that, but if you love a guy and no matter what he does, no matter how much he disappoints you, eventually turns around and says, I just can't be what you need. And sometimes the Cancer will be like, no, you're exactly what I need. And they know intuitively it's not. This is a time to really put an end to caring for others more than you care for yourself. And it's time for you to allow your own inner child to be as important, if not more important, than everybody else. Because as you allow that, you release something within your love bubble that is is off-putting. It's a little off-putting. With my Mercury and my Neptune in Scorpio, I'm acutely aware of the underbelly of people's motivations. I have had clients who tell me, I'm not talking about my personal life, but let me tell you about the restaurant I went to last night. And the guy that came in and, oh, Teri, he had the white hat you said he was going to have. And it's all about them. And when I'm trying to say, whoa, this is my time, I don't want to be your therapist on your time, they get mad. And I've paid a price for self-care. I feel as if Cancer, this is important for you to be willing to pay the price of self-care, because if something drops off, when this Venus-Neptune opposition happens later this week, you find yourself in a position where you're feeling as if you don't behave a certain way or you're not giving to somebody, they're going to cut you off. Let them. Because it's time to take care of you, and Spirit will fix that by bringing more and more people into your life that appreciate your boundaries, that trust you and trust your heart in a way that doesn't have to take away from you. This is my little challenge with my Pisces and with my Cancers. I feel like sometimes you give yourself away too much, and it's with the hope that others will give back. And I feel like this is an opportunity to put an end to that and start to really love on thyself so that others may then contribute to it in a healthy way. I remember this story about somebody that had I'm just going to tell you this real quick and then I'll move on. I had this client at one point who had a story, and the story was this. They were dating somebody and this person ghosted them, and they'd been together for a while, just totally blew them off. And they had reached out to that person and said, I want to talk to you. I want closure, blah, blah, blah. And they agreed to meet. And the man never showed up. And the woman just proceeded to get very upset. She got very drunk. And she met a guy at the bar she was supposed to meet her boyfriend at to have their last conversation. In the midst of that complete disintegration of her relationship, she ended up meeting her husband. And she didn't know she was going to meet her husband that night. But even through that disruptive energy and her feeling angry and feeling sad, she met this person and ended up in a very healthy, loving relationship. So I feel like for my Cancers, if something goes awry, if something ends, I want you to start to really project out into the future that that's an opening of some kind, that is in more alignment for you, that is something where there'll be more give and take versus an imbalanced situation. All right, let's go on to our Leos. The cup of love. Oh, this is beautiful energy. We can see that little fishies on this this knight's armor, and I also see the mercurial wings on his hat. So I feel like there's going to be a message of some kind, offering something that feels emotionally warm and fuzzy. Let's see. Leo, our first angel is Fiona. The second is Maya. The third is Crystal. And the final is Shanti. Saturn's been opposing Leo as it's done its little dance through Aquarius. And that can feel very depressing, slowing things down, bringing feelings of old stories coming back around. Sometimes those old stories have new faces, but the story feels the same. So let's see. Let's see where that cup of love is coming. Fiona is talking about is being joined by the movement card. Maya is being joined by the rebirth card. Crystal's being joined by Merlin and the balance and the justice. And Shanti is being joined by the eagle. Okay, so we've walked through a couple of last 3 years have been just disruptive beyond anything any of us have lived through, unless you're 100 and you've lived through the world wars. So I want to offer it this way, because for my Leos, there's something coming, and I feel like this is something that's bringing in balance, and it's bringing in a sense of love and joy. And I feel as if with this, it's part of it is your willingness to accept whatever transformations is coming. When I look at those fish, I feel like I have to flow like water. I feel like right now, rather than looking for something to be too solid, it's about being fluid, because there is movement coming. And Fiona says, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And then I have Maya teaching me about a rebirth. And sometimes, more times than not, this birth and this rebirth card is the death of one thing and the rebirth of something else. And here we see Crystal saying, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon. And then there's the balance card. There's the alchemy card. There's the justice card. And in the final position, we have Shanti, the angel of peace. And then we have the connection to spirit, the integrity. I feel as if the cup of love is going to be offered to you, and it could be in an intimate way, but it can also be feeling more loved and appreciated overall. I feel sometimes that when we look at a fixed energy, the fixed energy isn't necessarily about how outside world is perceiving you, but how you're perceiving the outside world. And if for some reason you have felt slighted, or you have felt as if your heart was not being nurtured, then now is an opportunity to start to see that shift. And I feel as if this opportunity comes as a result of you continuing to stand in leadership for your own romantic and heart-based endeavors. Okay, so now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving inspiration, because it will come, and it will offer you an education in your own focus and viewpoint. And that's a little bit of a challenge, because when the fixed energy gets, makes its mind up about something, it wants to stick to that. And sometimes it wants to have the outside world validate that dip in energy. Don't you see my pain? Don't you see my struggle? And this is where I feel like you have an opportunity to rise above and to say, okay, if there's something here that's breaking away or there's been struggle, what do I have? What's coming down the pike? What am I making room for? Because there's more peace ahead. And then there's a wisdom that comes from it, a bigger trust. When I was going through this, I've never felt physical pain in any big way. I've always had a very healthy physical body. So the first time I worked for chiropractors for 7 years, never had any sciatica, never, I got adjustments, but I never had any issues. So when I started to feel these physical things happening to my body, it was very strange to me, but it also was illuminating to me in ways that I was treating my body in old habitual ways, and now I was willing to revamp them. I was willing to work with spirit to align myself. That's what I think is going on here. There's movement and there's inspiration had. There's an opportunity to feel more love, not just from other people, but also from self and from spirit, as I give life to a rebirth, to a do-over of some kind. And I learn. So when my body started to feel funky, and then I was concerned about my physical well-being as far as money goes, I also understood that I have a momentum and an oversoul that holds space for me beyond me doing. And then I started to implement my trust. And I started to go into my meditations to support my balance. And then I felt, whoa, a little bit more peace as spirit started to move my story forward in a way, again, where I could trust an ebb and a flow. It's all right. It's all right to feel a back step so that I can move forward. Okay. Let's go on to our final sign, Virgo. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I'm very familiar with Rick Levine. He's been around as long as Linda Goodman, I think. I'll tell you. Okay. And for our Virgos, this is the night of inspiration. This is a night of wands, represents the fire signs, represents a feeling of galloping into my inspirations have got me. I'm excited about something. Let's look and see what this is, because I want to offer it this way. As your ruling planet, goes back into Virgo, you may not be inspired into action, but be inspired by something. When I look at the salamanders here on the code of this, there's something about transformation. There's something about adaptation to a situation, but now I'm not adapting from the other person's point of view. I'm adapting from something that feels more authentic to my truth. Yes, we did have a ton of court cards today. I think it's a lot about, the court cards are representative of personality types. So here we have opportunities to take elements of the personalities. Virgo, our first angel is Astera. The second is Athena. The third is Vanessa. And the final is Adriana. Astera is being joined by the frog. Athena is being joined by the butterfly. Vanessa is being joined by the movement card. And Adriana is being joined by the stag. Astera says to reach for your dreams with your star. Reach to the stars with your dreams and desires. And there's the frog. The frog's been coming up over and over again. This, to me, is really more about finding a wisdom within the way our mind works. We never want to release anything because it doesn't work. It's a fake exercise. Only way we will ever release anything is to incorporate it, to use it as a tool to identify an energy that either works for us or doesn't work for us. So to me, this is Virgo really starting to use astrology to help them get out of whatever dutiful energy or service energy that is actually out of balance, where they're not being part of the equation. That's where I want to put it. And that's why I feel like this comes from an inspired idea, and why I feel like there's an opportunity to really transform. I can't quite off the top of my head. I know the salamander has another name. I'm not sure if it's a chameleon, but it feels like there's a dualistic, there's something about this idea. Maybe it's shedding a skin of some kind, because here we see the butterfly energy and we see Athena. And I think this is really about asserting yourself towards transformation and moving yourself towards what you really want. I want to reframe your service, Virgo. I want to say, if you actually, rather than looking at somebody else or some other dynamic and what their agenda, their process, and you going in and implementing their process, what if you take all that back? And what if this is about you now? How do I want to move my story forward? What do I want to do in my everyday activities? What do I want to think about? Because this is an opportunity for you to, this is Pluto again, to shed one skin and start a new skin, to go from the caterpillar to the butterfly. But this assertion must come from your mind first, from your ability to have faith that if you take care of you, you are taking care of others. The dutiful signs, those that care for others, this is, again, we'll always see an axis. On Cancer, we see the Capricorn axis. With Virgo, we see the Pisces axis. So this is about sort of finding this balance between others and self, because Adriana is leading you to a place where you have more leadership of yourself, where you do what you want, but you do it in a way that doesn't have to feel like you've abandoned others or you have not fulfilled your duty to others. The Virgo energy has this little bit of enslavement, and I say that gently, because the mind is telling you you must do what you are told to do or what other people expect you to do. And I feel like this is an opportunity this week to break, to almost to, I don't want to say break the chain, but I do want to say have an epiphany about that chain. And if it is really serving others, because if you're following somebody who's out of balance, or if you're following somebody who's ego-based, let's say, you work in an industry that's full of, movie stars or people that are celebrities, and yet the integrity isn't there. Are you truly enjoying what's happening? There's something about redefining for Virgo what you want that allows you to leap away from something that isn't authentic. And part of your job is to trust that if you assert yourself towards what is authentic to you, to something inspiring, that then you will have an experience that supports that versus punishes you. Because what happens when a slave does not behave the way the master wants it to? It gets beaten, sometimes killed. And so I feel like this is a real opportunity to have a new way of thinking, to be inspired, and to gallop away from anything that doesn't inspire you anymore. And this is where we really start to have that Venus self-worth and that opposition in Virgo to Neptune to break the illusion. The illusion that dutiful energy is loving energy. It's not always. It's a very fine line. Because as humans, we need validation, and we need to feel as being part, being part of a situation. And in the Virgonian energy, if you're not doing what is expected of you, you could be outcast or punished or somehow ostracized. And so I want to offer that there's an opportunity to shift all of that. And it's just one step at a time. It's not about trying to jump up and make a lot of physical moves as much as it's identifying how much faith I have that I'm working in tandem with spirit. And as I start to give mental life, as I start to clean up my mental mind, my mental landscape, spirit will lead me in a way that I can trust and feel supported and feel safe. Okay. These broadcasts are just 2 hours long. I don't know. Every week I try to make them shorter, but I just talk too much. I want to thank you all for being here again. I love you more than you even know. I appreciate you. If you'd like to do an astrology reading with me, I'm offering natal charts, natal and transit charts. I'm offering synergy charts and past life charts. If you'd like to do an angel session with your guides and your angels, I'm available. My information is below. Please like, please share, please subscribe, all that other good stuff. I will be back next Sunday. And in the meantime, be on the lookout for the new moon video. I'll put that out this week. And hopefully I'll have the October forecasts up for each and every one of you. Individually, I'm going to try to get those all done too. So thanks, everybody. I love you. Have a wonderful week. Peace out.